Hey friends, Ash here with GENTSTEN. How you doing? I got a new fragrance in, yes! Ah man, it feels like a fragrance wasteland as far as new releases go. At least if we're talking big releases that a lot of people are going to be talking about. Not been any for a while. Last big one that I can think of off the top of my head is what, like Code Parfum, I think. This one is not from a designer house or a niche house, it's from a clone house. Armaf. Yeah, we all know Armaf. Most well known for Club de Nuit Intense Man, which is a Creed Aventus clone. Now we got a new Club de Nuit. Actually, there were 4 new Club de Nuits, just came out of nowhere. I had no clue that these were coming, and then they just popped up on Fragrance Buy's website. Yeah, so I guess that's how they were announced. It was actually on Fragrance Buy's website before I saw it on any other fragrance databases or anything, except for this one. The one we're talking about here today, Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir. This one was on different websites, so I had to get it. And then this popped up with 3 of its brethren, which I'll be talking about later on in different videos. So for now, let's jump into this and let's talk about Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir. Also guys, I want to remind you that my fragrance Blue Ridge is now available nationwide in the US at every single Perfumania and every single fragrance outlet store in the US. Yeah, so it's kind of a big deal. It's in over 300 stores in the US right now, which is pretty crazy. And of course, you can get this one or the other new releases that I creatively directed, Terra Nova or Jet Black Enigma, which is actually a re-release, on Michael Malloy's website, which is linked in the description. Use the code GENTSTEN for 20% off your order if you order off the website. And then there's also going to be information down below. If you go into a fragrance outlet or a Perfumania, you can use the code GENTS10 to get $10 off. Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir. Some of you out there will remember Urban Man. Now this one, Club de Nuit Urban Man, came out a while back. This is not a new release, obviously, and in my opinion, Club de Nuit Urban Man is the worst Club de Nuit fragrance that Armaf did. Smells a bit similar to Burberry, Mr. Burberry Eau de Parfum, which begs the question, why? Mr. Burberry Eau de Parfum and Eau de Toilette, neither one very expensive, and this is like a lower quality version of that, so So I didn't quite know what to think of it when I saw Urban Man Elixir, because part of me was thinking, oh, another Urban Man. I don't know if we need that. And then I see Elixir on there, and of course, the first place that my brain goes is Dior Sauvage Elixir. Could it be a clone of that, an alternative of that? Well, we'll get into that, but first off, let's take a look at the presentation. And of course, this is linked below in case you just want to go check it out. So here we have the front of the box. You have the name of the fragrance, you have your size and concentration on here, a 105 milliliter size, so a little bit out of the ordinary. Up top, it says Armaf. On one side of the box, you have a little sticker, your certificate of authenticity. On the other side, it just says Club de Nuit Urban. Then on the back, you have your ingredient information. It has kind of a little glittery look to it when the light hits it, and also a matte rubbery feel. On the bottom, you have your badge code and your expiration date. So mine is 10/20/27, October 2027. And here we have the bottle, of course done in your typical Club de Nuit style. It is a little scuffed up on the front, and that's how it came from the box. You have the name of the fragrance on the front there. Once again, on the side says Club de Nuit, nothing on the back. You have that almost crystally dice looking cap that does click into place. It says Armaf on top of the atomizer, and on the bottom you have a sticker. You know what time it is? Let's give it a couple sprays. The atomizer is typical Armaf. You know, it's not great, but it's not terrible. Overall presentation wise of the new Club de Nuit releases, this is probably the plainest one. It's fine. It's a standard bottle. From far away, maybe you could confuse it with Club de Nuit Intense if you didn't see the Urban Man Elixir there on front. So first off, price at Fragrance Buy, $40. Well, right around $40 US. It's going to change a little bit depending on the conversion rate from Canadian dollars to US dollars, but right around 40. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe a year down the line, it's dropped down in price a little bit, but I would expect it to hang out around that price point for a while. Again, just my guesstimation there. So, does Urban Man Elixir smell like Sauvage Elixir? Which you would think is what they'd be going after. That's what I thought. You know, I'm sure a lot of you out there thought that as well, because Sauvage Elixir is expensive, very popular. Other clone brands have gone after that one as well. And the answer to that is no. No, Urban Man Elixir does not smell like Sauvage Elixir. It's a totally different deal. Well, a totally different deal from Sauvage Elixir, not a totally different deal from Sauvage. So to me, Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir smells most similar to Dior Sauvage Eau de Parfum with kind of a twist. Now, of course, some people are going to say just Sauvage Eau de Toilette in general is what smells closest to Urban Man Elixir, and I'm not going to argue that because, frankly, Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum both are pretty similar, right? There are differences, of course, but they're not like so different where you go, oh, you can't mistake one for the other, like in the air. Sure, plenty of people would mistake Sauvage Eau de Parfum for Eau de Toilette or vice versa. So anyway, yeah, it smells a bit like Sauvage Eau de Parfum. Well, a good amount like Sauvage Eau de Parfum, but not as metallic with the ambroxan, not as aggressive. It's a little bit smoother. It has that kind of vanilla, slight dusty sweetness underneath everything. Now, when you look at the note breakdown that they have online for Urban Man Elixir, vanilla is not a note on there, but I definitely get that kind of vibe, which is, again, why I'm getting more of a similarity to Sauvage Eau de Parfum as compared to Sauvage Eau de Toilette because of that additional vanilla, and I picked it up in Urban Man Elixir. But it's not just Sauvage Eau de Parfum here. No. Bit of a twist, like I said. In the opening, it has like bits and pieces, faint bits and pieces of something along the lines of Creed Aventus. Imagine that. Not quite full-on pineapple. I mean, maybe a little bit of that kind of vibe coming from like a bergamot note there in the opening of Urban Man Elixir, but more so that bit of black currant, slight tart fruitiness mixing together with that bergamot, which gives it a faint vibe of Aventus along the edges of the scent. And as I said, the bergamot in the opening here of Urban Man Elixir, I mean, if you stretch your mind a little bit, you could say it gives kind of a little pineapple-y vibe, a pineapple-y throwback to Creed's Aventus. And to be fair, that whole idea of Sauvage and Aventus kind of intermingling into a fragrance, that has been done, and it's been done successfully. So it's not like this is out of left field where you go like, oh, this is a combination I've never thought of before. No, it's pretty tried, tested, and true, actually. A lot of people will layer those fragrances together. In fact, Pineapple Vintage, back in the day, they made X-Batch, and X-Batch, not the X-Men or X-Force, but the X-Batch. It was basically that, Sauvage mixed with Aventus. That was what they were going for here. Now with Urban Man Elixir, it leans much more to the Sauvage side of things than it does the Aventus side of things. So that would be, I guess, the main difference between the two. X-Batch over here was leaning more Aventus, whereas this leans more Sauvage. Urban Man Elixir does have a nice, clean, masculine lavender note, just like you're gonna find in Sauvage, that comes out as the fragrance dries down. It lingers there for a long time. As you hit the base, you get ambroxan, patchouli, so you get this kind of modern, woody, warm, very slightly earthy, but not dirty dry down. It's got great performance to it, lasts a long time. Now this is basically a glorified first impression. I've not been able to wear it over and over and out and about and all this stuff. So take what I'm saying as far as performance goes with a grain of salt, because this is basically me just testing the fragrance, with my wife, essentially. That sounds weird, but just being like, can you smell me? Can you smell me? Can you smell me now? Can you smell me? You know what I'm saying. Maybe it's not that creepy, but you've done something similar. But yeah, it appears to last a long time, projects well, so I've got no complaints there, well above average. But honestly, you have to have performance that's at least a little bit above average to have a successful Sauvage type scent, because Sauvage, both the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum and Elixir, of course, even though this smells something like Elixir, but those fragrances are known to have good performance, to project well, to last a long time. So if you have a fragrance that's basically competing with those, that's trying to be an alternative to those, a twist of those, a clone of those, whatever you want to call it, inspired by those, then you have to have that performance. If you don't, what have you really got there? You completely whiffed on one of the most important parts of that scent profile. So thankfully, Urban Man Elixir does do the deed as far as performance goes. And do we need to talk all that much about compliment factor and everything? I would guess not, that we don't have to, but yeah, I mean, it smells like Sauvage Eau de Parfum tweaked and changed and given an Aventus kind of makeover to an extent. Again, leaning much further to the Sauvage side of things. But with that in mind, I mean, yeah, it comes across like the type of scent that would be a compliment monster. And I do think that Armaf is getting much better with these clone fragrances, with taking off that, frankly, you know, synthetic edge, that chemically edge, that bit of harshness that some Club de Nuit fragrances, or some Armaf fragrances in general, have. Because if you go back especially to some of the older Armaf fragrances, which they're not super old in the overall of fragrances, you know, they're not that old, but you go back a number of years and a lot of the releases that Armaf had, they had a roughness to them. You know, they had to settle down on your skin, because when you first sprayed it on, it was just like a chemical overload, like you were taking a chemical bath. It wasn't pleasant. And some of their fragrances, frankly, were just harsh all the way around, opening, mid, and dry down. There was no getting better. You sprayed it on and then you were like, well, okay, we'll let it settle. And then an hour later, you were just like, hand me a Brillo pad. I'm taking this fragrance off with my skin or without. But this has none of that. Yeah, it's super surprising. The quality has gone up, because you take this, you spray it on your skin, you smell it, and immediately you're like, oh, okay. You can go in right as soon as you spray it and not get immediately crushed. And after a few seconds, it smells, like I said before, you know, Sauvage, Aventus, little powdery vanilla underneath, dusty vanilla, super pleasant. The bottle, the more I look at it, actually, the more I dislike it, because it is so scuffed up. When I took it right out of the box, it looked like that. But everything else is solid here. I would guess the main thing that you would have to ask yourself is it worth it at 40 bucks to have an alternative to something that is not niche, basically? Because some people will look at it and say, yeah, 40 bucks, but I could pay whatever, you know, 90 or 100 and get Sauvage Eau de Parfum. That's valid. But at the end of the day, that is still over double the cost of this one. So that's really the main thing that I think you'd have to ask yourself. I think if the price makes sense to you and you want an alternative to Sauvage Eau de Parfum with a little sprinkling of some Aventus magic there, then check it out. Yeah, solid stuff. But don't go into it thinking that it's going to have even one iota of Sauvage Elixir, because it does not. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir. Thankfully, way better than Urban Man. Sorry, Urban Man, but you suck. Keep that in mind. Do not get confused, okay? Do not buy Urban Man thinking that it's this Urban Man Elixir, okay? That elixir is very important here. That'll do it for me. Thank you. I'm out of here. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow. Another video. Peace.